Hello, you're watching A News Morning from Baku. I'm Bakhtiar Sanov, and let's see the headlines. Donald Trump will not rule out force to take Panama Canal and Greenland. President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev calls for constitutional amendments in Armenia to secure peace deal. Rescuers search for survivors after earthquake in China's Tibet kills at least 126 people. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev gave an interview to several television channels, including A News. The head of state shared his views on the country's social and economic situation, international and regional relations.
President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev spoke about regional and international issues during his big interview to several television channels, including A News. Commenting the issue on normalization of Armenia-Azerbaijan relations, the president stated that securing a peace deal with Armenia is possible only with the implementation of constitutional amendments in this country. He emphasized that such changes are essential for the stability and future relations between the two nations.
Ümid edirəm ki, bizim bütün sülh müqaviləsi ilə bağlı şərtlər.
I hope that all our conditions regarding the peace treaty will be accepted, because there are no extraordinary issues in these conditions. The abolition of the Minsk Group, the amendment of the constitution. Without these, a peace treaty is impossible. If Armenia does not need a peace treaty, we do not need it either. We can live and conduct our own policy without signing it. In other words, I would still advise the Armenian side to weigh everything up, including geopolitical changes in the world. Their close friends are being shamefully removed from the political scene. Yesterday, news came that Mr. Trudeau, a close friend of Armenia and Pashinyan, also had to resign.
Cənab Trudeau da vəzifədən getməli oldu.
President Ilham Aliyev also expressed his discontent with the European Union's actions in the region, particularly criticizing the EU's alignment with Armenia during the normalization process. He highlighted a series of disappointments, including the extension of the EU's observation mission without Azerbaijan's consent, which he argues undermined the trust.
It is difficult to say how our relations with the European Commission will develop, but I must say that last year was a year full of disappointments, because it was last year that the European Union unequivocally took Armenia's side in the normalization process. There are many facts, which you also know very well. Of course, the way the so-called observation mission of the European Union was extended did not strengthen, but on the contrary, undermined the trust. After all, when we demanded that it be agreed with us, it was not because we have some inflated ambitions, but simply because the very establishment of this mission and its sending to our border was agreed with us, personally with me, in Prague, in October 2022. If we agreed then that it would be 2 months and 40 people, then that is how it should be. When I agree, even in words, I always stick to these agreements. But in this case, Europe felt that they had the right to violate these agreements. But then, without any notification, without any agreement with us, they not only extended this mission, they increased it and even invited a country that is not a member of the European Union, essentially undermining trust. Now, what happens next, I don't know. The Commission is new, although some characters are old. But still, it is a new Commission, and what attitude to Azerbaijan and its national interests it will have, the same attitude will be to them.
President Ilham Aliyev reflected on the aftermath of the attack on Azerbaijan's embassy in Tehran, which he described as an organized act of terror. He highlighted inconsistencies in the Iranian government's response. He also criticized the actions of certain Iranian officials and demanded accountability for the insults directed at Azerbaijan, insisting that Iran must take concrete steps to address these issues and restore trust between the two nations.
It is difficult to analyze the relations with the new government because I have not personally met with the new president. If and when it happens, then I can talk about it. As for the provincial mullah's hateful attitude towards us, this is not the first time. That mullah from the city of Ardabil has repeatedly used insulting expressions against Azerbaijan, the Azerbaijani people, including me.
Erdebil
The question here is what the attitude of the person who appointed him to that position is. After all, he did not come and sit there on his own. We know very well who appointed him. What is his reaction? Does he support this or not? And who will apologize to Azerbaijan? Will they apologize or not? The regret in the statement of the Iranian Foreign Ministry is not enough. There was an open insult. Both the presidents of Turkey and Azerbaijan, our peoples, and during a live broadcast at an official event. And only regret. This, of course, is unacceptable. Therefore, we believe that the provincial mullah should be punished. At the very least, he should be dismissed from his post and made to apologize to Azerbaijan. This is the point.
olmalıdır ve Azərbaycandan üzr istəməlidir. Bax, məsələ bundadır. So we
President Ilham Aliyev was also asked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He reaffirmed Azerbaijan's long-standing position of supporting a two-state solution.
İsrail-Fələstin məsələsində də bizim mövqeyimiz dəyişməz olaraq qalır.
Our position on the Israeli-Palestinian issue remains unchanged. We have always been in favor of the creation. In other words, the existence of two states. The creation of an independent Palestinian state will put an end to this conflict. I think everyone should understand this. As you know, we have been supporting the Palestinian state for many years, politically, morally, and materially. And this continues. The Palestinian embassy has been operating in Azerbaijan for many years. We have also opened a representative office in Palestine, and of course, the sooner this conflict ends and a ceasefire is declared in Gaza, the better it will be for everyone.
Ateşkəs elan edilsə, o qədər də hamı üçün yaxşı olacaq.
Talking about Middle East issues, President Ilham Aliyev expressed strong support for the positive changes in Syria.
Türkiyənin marağında nədirsə bizim də marağımız.
Whatever is in Turkey's interest, it is in our interest too.
Maraqlarımız da
Our security is the same, our interests are the same, and our future is the same, both in the Middle East and at the same time in Europe. We touched on this issue a little. A completely new situation is emerging. A strong Turkish factor will play a key role here. We are with Turkey. In other words, our power will increase even more. The vast geography encompassing Europe, Asia, the South Caucasus, and the Caspian Basin is already a serious geopolitical factor in itself. Military power, political power, economic potential, unity, and today it is impossible to see countries so interconnected as Turkey and Azerbaijan anywhere in the world. Therefore, we are very hopeful, and the changes in Syria make us very happy. First for Turkey, and secondly for ourselves. Because for 12 years, we have had no relations with Syria.
il ərzində bizim Suriyə ilə heç bir əlaqəmiz olmuyor.
President Aliyev also commented the question about U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. He highlighted that during Trump's term, U.S.-Azerbaijan relations were very positive, and they were able to make progress in many areas.
Cənab Trump tamamilə yeni gündəliklə hakimiyyətə gəlir.
Mr. Trump comes to power with a completely new agenda, and during his first term, there was no issue in US-Azerbaijan relations. On the contrary, the relations were very positive, and we were able to make progress in many areas. We established the main serious cooperation platform with America during the Clinton and George Bush administrations, and this continued during Trump's term. Therefore, there is hope. Mr. Trump sends very clear, direct messages with his statements. Now, it might not be possible to analyze all of them, but I can say that the vast majority of them are shared by Azerbaijani society. Therefore, hopes are high. That's why I said that there is hope. There is great hope. This includes the possibility of advancing US-Azerbaijan strategic relations. I believe that if both sides are interested, we can elevate US-Azerbaijan relations to a strategic level.
Azərbaycan əlaqələrini strateji səviyyəsinə qaldıra bilərik.
President Aliyev also criticized French President Macron's recent accusations against Azerbaijan.
Fransaya gəldikdə orada indi siyasi səhnədə nələr baş verir? İndi hər kəs özü görür.
As for France, what is happening on the political scene there now? Everyone can see that. Yesterday, the French president made further absurd accusations against Azerbaijan. It seems that Mr. Macron cannot live without Azerbaijan. He has some kind of mania and wants to blame all his sins on us. I think that if we have become so strong that we can interfere in the internal affairs of France and change something, we can simply be proud of it. In fact, this statement is an admission of his own helplessness. A president of a great state suffers from the actions of a country with a population of 10 million located far away in the Caucasus region. However, we have nothing to do with the internal affairs of France. Simply put, this was brought about by wrong approaches and irrelevant policies. If there is a consensus in French political circles, it is a consensus only on Azerbaijanophobia.
On energy cooperation with Europe, the head of state said that Azerbaijan has expanded its gas exports to 12 countries, including 10 in Europe, doubling supplies since 2022. Today, Azerbaijani gas constitutes half of domestic consumption in many European nations. The Southern Gas Corridor, coupled with new interconnectors, allows the country to reach more markets.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, during a press conference, made a series of bold and controversial proposals that have drawn significant international attention. In less than 2 weeks, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as U.S. president, but his ambitious and polarizing agenda is drawing mixed reactions, both domestically and internationally.
President-elect Donald Trump declined to rule out military or economic action to regain control over the Panama Canal and acquire Greenland, describing them as crucial to U.S. economic and national security. To pressure Denmark into selling Greenland, he suggested imposing tariffs, despite Denmark's firm stance that Greenland is not for sale. When asked if he could rule out using military or economic force to gain control of the Panama Canal and Greenland, Trump said he cannot assure that on either of those two.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages.
Trump also reiterated interest in making Canada a U.S. state, criticizing American spending on Canadian goods and military support. Another striking proposal was Trump's vow to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, which he praised as a beautiful name. He also restated his intention to impose significant tariffs on Mexico and Canada, further straining relations with two key U.S. neighbors.
Economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? No, right. But why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it?
Turning to defense, Trump proposed NATO members increase their defense spending target to 5% of their GDP, criticizing allies for not meeting existing commitments.
Well, I think NATO should have 5%, yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%. I think they should be, they're in dangerous territory. I think it should be, they can all afford it, but they should be at 5%, not 2%. I'm the one that got them to pay 2%.
The press conference held a day after Congress formally certified Trump's election victory. President-elect prepares to take office on January 20th.
Panama's government has responded strongly to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's remarks about the Panama Canal. The country's foreign minister has firmly reaffirmed Panama's control over the vital waterway. At a press conference, Foreign Minister Javier Martinez-Acha dismissed Trump's claims of a financial offer for the canal, calling them untrue. He emphasized that the Panama Canal's sovereignty is a hard-earned, irreversible achievement and will remain under Panamanian control. The minister reassured the international community of Panama's neutrality, highlighting the canal's mission to serve global trade while rejecting any potential interference. The UK government is continuing to resist calls for a public inquiry into so-called grooming gangs, but is promising new legislation to tackle the issue. This comes as an online row with Tesla owner Elon Musk stretches into another day. A News correspondent Ollie Barrett brings more from London.
Well, the UK government says it is not going to set up a new national inquiry into this so-called grooming gang scandal, but it is bringing in legislation that, for example, will see criminal sanctions for people who work with children if they don't report claims of abuse. Now, the opposition Conservatives here in Britain have attacked the government on this, as have the Reform Party led by Nigel Farage, but the row between Elon Musk and the UK government continues. He has even called the UK Prime Minister in one of his latest postings on social media evil because of the connections he says that he has to this scandal when he was Director of Public Prosecutions before becoming a politician and before he became the UK Prime Minister. The UK government has tried to hit back against some of these claims from Elon Musk over the last 48 hours or so, but is also trying not to get drawn too much into a war of words with the entrepreneur who is set to become a key part of the Trump administration after inauguration on January the 20th. And it's not the only European country involved in a war of words and a back and forth and controversy when it comes to Elon Musk's criticisms. We've seen the French President Emmanuel Macron also saying that he believes that Elon Musk has been intervening directly in elections, and he cited some comments that Elon Musk has been making about support for the AfD party in Germany, a party that many in Germany see and describe as a far-right political party. Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, insists that he is not going to engage directly with Elon Musk and has said, don't feed the troll, is how he has described some of the comments that Elon Musk has been making about German politics and the upcoming German election. We've also seen the Norwegian Prime Minister express concern about Elon Musk's comments and postings about European politics too. So real concern here in Europe about a man who, as I say, will be an important part, we think, of the incoming Donald Trump administration in Washington, being so involved in such strong opinions about European politics and, crucially, upcoming European electoral events such as we are seeing in Germany. Here in the UK, the controversy, though, continues domestically as well, with a row between the political parties about exactly what to do about the grooming gang scandal that's been uncovered in a series of English towns and cities. The Conservatives, the Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, has talked about the importation of alien cultures to the UK being responsible in part for a story like that. He's been criticised by that for the Liberal Democrats, who say that he should now be fired from his position as Shadow Justice Secretary in the opposition Conservatives. So a domestic row here in the UK, a row between the UK government and Elon Musk, who's been sharply critical of a series of UK government figures, and a series of European governments also expressing concern about Elon Musk involving himself so directly with some of his comments in European affairs. Ollie Barrett for A News in London.
At least 126 people have been confirmed dead following a major earthquake which struck the foothills of the Himalayas on Tuesday, according to Chinese authorities. The quake destroyed hundreds of houses near the world's highest mountain, leaving hundreds injured, according to reports. Local fire and rescue teams confirmed efforts to locate both victims and survivors in the aftermath of the devastation. Tremors from the quake were also felt in neighboring Bhutan and India. A wildfire in Los Angeles is tearing through the upscale Pacific Palisades neighborhood, forcing mass evacuations. Over 30,000 residents have fled as flames fueled by strong winds threaten homes and wildlife.
The wildfire, which began Tuesday, has already burned over 510 hectares in the Pacific Palisades area, nestled between Santa Monica and Malibu in the United States. 30,000 residents have been forced to evacuate as flames engulf homes and create gridlock on roads leading to safety. Firefighters are battling around the clock using aircraft to drop water and bulldozers to clear roads for emergency vehicles. Television images show homes engulfed in flames and traffic at a standstill as residents attempt to flee. The National Weather Service has issued its highest fire alert, warning the worst is yet to come as wind conditions are expected to worsen overnight.
Yeah, this fire came out from, looked like the ridge on top of Palisades Drive and like Lockman Lane, etc. And the wind was howling at 38, 40 miles an hour, major gusts, and it's just blowing right down to the beach.
Flying embers have already set palm trees ablaze along Sunset Boulevard, with firefighters working to contain the damage and prevent further evacuations.
Well, obviously people's lives. Property damage is property damage. Losing lives, dogs, animals, horses, a lot of horses in the neighborhood. So, yes, so that's what matters.
The situation remains critical as firefighters race against time to protect lives and property in one of LA's most exclusive neighborhoods.
The International Committee of the Red Cross President Mirjana Egger calls for international humanitarian law to be respected in Syria. She said this as she conducted a 3-day visit to country, touring the cities of Aleppo and Idlib.
The president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Mirjana Egger, has concluded a 3-day visit in Syria. Her visit comes as the country has seen a transition in government following the ousting of former President Bashar al-Assad by a rebel group last month. Now, with an end to a 13-year-long conflict in the country, Egger emphasizes the need to respect international humanitarian law and provide answers for families of missing detainees.
There are potentially tens of thousands of missing people that we have not yet identified, but we are already following up on over 40,000 cases. This is a huge task ahead of us. I'm aware that thousands of families are looking for their relatives, and this is an agony that nobody wants to go through. We are working with our partners to be able to inform them as quickly as possible. But it's been years since the ICRC has had access to all detainees, and we see the consequences of it.
President Egger visited the cities of Aleppo and Idlib, in which she saw efforts to support essential services like water supply and healthcare, both of which have been heavily impacted by years of conflict. She also calls on stakeholders to protect such crucial infrastructure.
If anything happens to the power or the water supply coming from these two plants, it can potentially affect millions of people. So I'm calling on all the parties and everybody who has an influence to protect the sites, to protect at all times critical infrastructure, especially in the health sector, in the water sector, and in the energy sector.
Syria requires $4 billion in aid, and the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that only 33% has been funded, leaving a gap of over $2.5 billion.
Damascus International Airport has resumed international flights following a month-long closure.
Syria's Damascus International Airport resumed international flights on January 7 following a closure in early December due to the ongoing conflict. The airport had been temporarily shut down on December 8 amid the fighting associated with the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's government. However, flight operations were gradually reinstated on December 17 after the political changes earlier that month. On January 7, a Qatar Airways flight landed at the airport, making the first international flight from the airline to Damascus in over 13 years.
This return of international flights followed earlier smaller-scale operations by airlines such as Iran's Mirage Airlines and Syria's Cham Wings before the airport's closure. Employees had been preparing the airport for the resumption of international services. In addition to the return of international flights, a domestic flight between Damascus and Aleppo, Syria's second-largest city, also took place, marking the first service between the two cities since the airport's closure.
Eurozone inflation accelerated in December. The unwelcome but anticipated blip is unlikely to derail further interest rate cuts from the European Central Bank, though. Inflation in the 20 nations sharing the euro peaked up to 2.4% last month from 2.2% in November, in line with expectations. It was lifted by more expensive energy and stubbornly high services costs. The European Central Bank cut interest rates 4 times last year and said its target is now within sight. More policy easing is coming, although the speed and timing remain subject to debate. Price growth excluding volatile food and energy held at 2.7%, and a closely watched services component, the single biggest item in the consumer price basket, accelerated to 4% from 3.9%. A strong dollar in recent weeks has been making imports of key commodities more expensive, and that's feeding through to prices via more expensive energy, including car fuel. The dollar could rise even more if the new U.S. administration implements its trade tariff proposals. SOCAR Turkey has unveiled its plan to invest a total of $7 billion to establish new petrochemical facilities in the coming years. The first feasibility study within the scope of the master plan, which envisages investment in the petrochemical field, has been completed, and the engineering design preparation phase will be initiated for detailed technical analysis. Speaking at a meeting in Istanbul, SOCAR Turkey Chief Executive Officer Elçin İbatov said that the company, which started its operations in 2008, has invested $18.5 billion to date. According to him, they envisage an investment of approximately $7 billion to establish new petrochemical facilities. But there are many factors, such as which units will be established and from which countries those units will be bought, because of the front-end engineering design study. He stressed that the company expects the FEED period of the project to be 18 to 24 months, and the final decision phase of the project can be started with the completion of the FEED process by the end of 2026. A new cybersecurity directorate has been established under the Turkish presidency following a presidential decree signed by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The decree, published in the official Gazette, outlines the directorate's structure, responsibilities and objectives as it comes into effect immediately. Headquartered in Ankara, the Cybersecurity Directorate will function as a public legal entity with a special budget. Its primary mission will be to ensure cybersecurity by developing policies, strategies and action plans, as well as coordinating related activities. The Directorate will also focus on increasing awareness, education and public understanding of cybersecurity, while promoting projects that support information security across the country. The Directorate's tasks include fostering collaboration among public institutions, private companies and universities. It aims to strengthen Turkey's cybersecurity ecosystem by encouraging the development of domestic and national technologies. Efforts will also be made to enhance the competitiveness of local entrepreneurs in global markets through research and development, technology transfer, and the identification of vulnerabilities in cybersecurity infrastructure. Recently resurfaced video showing former Armenian President Levon Ter-Petrosyan stating that all ethnic minorities, including Azerbaijanis, were bound to be removed from Armenia has been the subject of discussion over the past few days. Many argue that this statement amounts to confession of an ethnic cleansing carried out by Armenia against Azerbaijanis. Earlier, our colleague Orkan Amashov interviewed Professor of Law Amanda Marquez Guedes on this subject.
In early 90s, the former Baksan, the then president of Armenia, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, said that for Armenian statehood to emerge, it was absolutely vital to get rid of all the ethnic minorities, because that was a question of survival for them. And this video recently resurfaced, and the question emerged when somebody, the state leader, says that we have achieved something that we set out to achieve. That was the ambition of 600-year-old ambition to get rid of all ethnic minorities, including Azerbaijanis from Armenia, to establish Armenian statehood. What is your legal interpretation of what is of his statement?
It would be legally ethnic cleansing, so I think it would be illegal for contemporary purposes. I think this was a very bad idea in 1991 to make that kind of statement. I understand the spirit, I understand the will to do so, but that sounds so 1910s, doesn't it? It's before the UN actually stood with its international law. I think it would be equivalent to what happened in the Balkans with ethnic cleansing. Try to kick out everyone who's not your nationality. It sounds like Eastern European nationalism, with ethnically based, which is, or religiously based, which is utter nonsense. This is not the kind of world we want to drift in, not after Woodrow Wilson, and certainly not after Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Winston Churchill.
Located in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, Boston Lake has become a focal point for tourists during the ice and snow season. Visitors can enjoy its breathtaking natural beauty while participating in various exciting activities.
The REACH program around Boston Lake offers tourists folk performances, snow sculptures in unique shapes, and diverse ice and snow sports. Activities such as camel rides on snow, cross-country snow races, and snowmobiling add to the lake's charm. This season, approximately 50 cultural and tourism events will be held at the lake. Highlights include winter fishing, a grand fish feast for 10,000 people, ice and snow tournaments, and desert cross-country races. These events promise to create a true festival of ice and snow for visitors.
I saw a lot of ice tourism projects and tasted the local specialities of mohu fish, as well as the boiled pear with the rock sugar. It is really great.
Boston Lake, whose name means oasis in the Uyghur language, is the largest, covering an area of over 1,600 square kilometers. This unique natural treasure was known as the Western Sea in ancient times. With its stunning landscapes and vibrant events, Boston Lake attracts both local and international tourists every year. For those seeking the magic of ice and snow, this destination is the perfect choice.
That's all we have for this hour. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. Thank you for joining us, and also we wish you a good day ahead.